Hello, and today we're going to be talking about creating a consistent character. So, of course, AI has got so much power, and us as creators need to harness that power, which means bringing some constants into what is a very variable situation, which is AI. Now, in order to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some drawings of a character here, and I'm going to try and maintain a similar, well, ideally the same kind of character throughout various scenes. And we're going to work out how to do that right here. So to start with, I've got this description here, which I'm using in my image generator, which is ImageFX. As we can see, this is a fairly long description that I've got going on, and I'll just show you how detailed that is. So you can create something like this in ChatGPT or perhaps Gemini or something like that, and just say, I want a really detailed description of a character. And in this case, I'm going for a cartoon. And importantly, we've got to remember what the seed is. So what's the seed? Okay, going back into ImageFX now. So ImageFX has this section in the settings, and we can see that there is a seed that is automatic. Well, it's given to you, and then you want to be writing that down. So in this case, 354303, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that number right up here. Next, I'm going to go back into ImageFX, and I'm going to lock that so that we make sure that we use the same seed for every generation. So here's what it comes out with when I put in this detailed description. But now let's say that we want this character to be in a different place. Easy peasy. Let's just change the location. So we could put something like in a bookstore. Stick that at the front, and what we'll see is that with the reference behind it, it's going to change the background, and it's going to try and put our reference character somewhere in that setting. So let's see. Okay, now we've got this character. She's in a bookstore now. We can see that we could probably use this. I probably don't want two versions of this character, but we get the idea. We can simplify to specify just one of these characters. And okay, now let's move her to a different location. Let's say on a street in a quaint village. So again, just changing the background here, just to demonstrate that we have control over the environment and that we're using the same character throughout. So again, we've changed the background completely. The character is somewhat similar. And if you want to be even more specific about how the character's hair is, what color their glasses are, that can also just be put it towards the front of the description to bring it more emphasis. Okay, so now we have our consistent character. What's she doing? She's basically moving from scene to scene. And what I think is useful is to create a whole storyboard about what your character is going to do consistently in a story. So here we go. I've put my character reference into a Google Doc so that I can save that for later. Here we go. We've got our character reference image. And now what I want her to do is I want to go through a whole story. So let's start her going to maybe a bookstore, maybe going to, find herself looking through a table at that bookstore. And as we can see, we can use these background situations, and then we can drop our consistent character in there. So what I recommend is generate the scene, the environment that you're looking for, and then when you've got that, you want to drop in your character reference underneath. So in this case here, this is the environment that I went with. So let's just go back into ImageFX. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that character reference right there. But at the top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in that description of the environment. Okay, so as we can see now, we've got the same character. She's in that scene that I've decided that she should be in. So there she is. Now she's in the scene. And we get a couple of variations on that. And there we go. So we've got the character now moved into the environment that I've, described, and we can use that as kind of part of the storyboard, right? So as with any big animation studio, what they do to get the characters through the whole plot is they're basically storyboarding. And then they are like, becoming finer and finer into that storyboarding. But we can see how we've used that environment there with a generic person and then cast our character in there. And we can do that for very many things. So I'm just showing you some examples here of me taking a scene, creating it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast my character using that character reference into the scene. Here we are again. So we're using the same character, moving them from in these environments into scenes. Okay, final step is that we want to then use our storyboard and, somewhat animate that. And of course, with these in place, what we do is we use the images themselves and then put those into our video generators. So it's already starting from kind of our locked storyboard thing. And so, for example, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Runway. Actually, let's go with the one that I generated for us here. Okay, so I'm going to download, let's say, this image here. I'm going to go into Runway. I'm going to create a video. So from the dashboard, if you're not familiar, you can go to dashboard and then dashboard, create video. So generate video. And here I'm just going to kind of drop my image in there. So let's go to my downloads where I just put that guy. Okay, downloads, image FX. There we go. Drop that in right there. And all I need to do is to describe my shot a little bit so that we can then animate as required. So from here, of course, those of you familiar with Runway, you just type in what you want happening, and then the character should animate in some way accordingly. Picks up a trinket and looks at it. Let's also add some camera variability here. So camera, I don't know, pans to the right. Something like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna. Okay, great. So now here's just a quick summary. So we've put a description in, a detailed description for a character reference. We've put that into ImageFX, and now we have a character. Using that detailed reference, we're going to place them into an environment. So, I've described here a old kind of antique book story thing where there are some accessories. We've got that character now moved into that scene. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into a video generator and we're going to create a moving scene by just, typing in our prompts based on that image that we have. So clearly we can just stitch together an entire movie just by creating this storyboard and dropping in and animating and then stitching it all together. Please like, subscribe, or whatever. And I'll see you in the next one.